A violent explosion rocks one house in the capital Sana'a amid reports of civilian casualties. The British ambassador to Yemen affirms his government's support to achieve peace in Yemen. The UN mission to support Hodeidah agreement says landmines have killed 13 people during April. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Roshan Fuad. A violent explosion rocked the north of Sana'a on Monday amid reports of deaths and injuries. According to a statement attributed to the Houthi Civil Defense in Sana'a, the explosion took place in a house consisting of a basement and 2 floors in the Bab area north of the city. The Sanctions Committee on Yemen is to discuss the work of the United Nations Verification and Inspection Mechanism. Reports indicated that the commitment will discuss the work of the United Nations Verification and Inspection Mechanism for Yemen, which is tasked of monitoring and inspecting commercial ships heading to the ports of Hodeidah and Salif on the Red Sea.
Regional states are clear that any understanding reached as part of the ongoing discussions.
The British ambassador to Yemen, Richard Oppenheim, stated that his country welcomes the Saudi-Iranian agreement and everything that would calm tensions in the region. Oppenheim told the Middle East newspaper that his government will approve any new Security Council resolution which will end the conflict and lead to a political settlement in the country. The following report has more details.
For the first time, optimism is growing that the Yemeni war will end sooner rather than later. Much of the credit for this goes directly to the agreement that China brokered between Saudi Arabia and Iran in March to restore diplomatic relations between them. But peace in Yemen must be based on a number of axes, the first of which is achieving a transitional justice to end the monopoly of power and wealth. It needs also steps towards enhancing the participation in decision-making, empowering people with their capabilities, and contributing to building a state of law and order for all Yemenis. At the present time, Yemen needs a humanitarian truce, which is obligatory to immediately build confidence and pave the way for the peace process. The least that should be done in this truce is to abide by the conditions of the previous truce, especially the opening of the routes of ties, the release of all detainees and prisoners, and disclosing the fate of the disappeared. Any peace agreement must take into account preserving the development that is taking place in the eastern regions and bolstering the status of cities such as Ma'rib, Mocha, Ataq, and Lahaj, so that they will continue to be real urban centers. Any peace agreement should not lead to a retreat from the ongoing projects in terms of energy, communications, the internet, and education. Rather, multiple administrative models must be built under the roof of the Republic of Yemen. The Houthi militia now is in need for peace and the truce, even if they are portraying the opposite. The Houthis started the war to rule the whole of Yemen, but they failed. They launched an attack on Ma'rib to seize oil, and they also failed, and they lost their elite fighters. The militia entered into a truce, and the internal conditions exploded against them, and the regional supporter appeared at its weakest stage. As for the legitimacy in Yemen, it's better than it was in 2019, with a semi-unified front, and it has resources other than oil. Finally, no peace in Yemen can happen except by addressing the military and security problems that the Yemeni state must control exclusively.
Government forces thwarted 2 infiltration attempts by the Houthi militia north of Taiz. During the past 2 days, government forces thwarted a Houthi attempt to infiltrate towards locations on the Arba'in front north of Taiz.
ينتهي فصل الشتاء ويدخل فصل الصيف والربيع تنتهي من الآبار تجف عندما تنزل الأرض حقنا وتزهر ويقع منها ثمرة وتموت. لما تموت ما بلا ماي.
مشروع خزانة شريك الأشراف مكون من 3 خزانات، سعة كل خزان من 250 إلى 300 متر مكعب لعدة مزارع مجاورة اللي تزرع الفواكه والخضروات.
عندما وصلت هذه الخزانات في بلادنا لمسنا منها الاستفادة. عندما ينتهي البر نكمل المزارع من هذه الخزانات. لا تتعبن وخزانات نقوم نزرع حواليها.
الخزان هذا يجمع مياه الأمطار بحيث أنه يغطي المزارع في نهاية الموسم. العمال من أبناء المنطقة مزارعين مستفيدين مباشرين من المشروع.
لا يزيدنا خزانة جنبها شيء تنفعنا أكثر لأن المزارع عندنا كثيرة.
A gang led by a Houthi supervisor seized the homes of 3 citizens in Hodeidah Governorate, west of Yemen. The Houthi supervisor took over the houses during the absence of their owners for a holiday. He also brought other families into the houses and they refused to leave the looted house. The Houthi militia intensified campaign looting of citizens' private properties in Bani Matar district west of Sana'a. Local sources said the Houthi leader, along with a group of militants, assaulted and robbed a number of citizens' lands in the village of Masjid in Bani Matar district by force. A tribe north of Sana'a announced it will bury 2 its sons after the Houthis kept their dead bodies for about 218 days. In its statement, the tribe demanded justice for the blood of its sons and for the Houthi unjust campaign of storming homes, looting and breaking their content, terrorizing women and children, imprisoning men for more than 6 months without justification. The Masamdi mining project announced the removal of nearly 900 mines within a week. On the same line, the United Nations mission in Hodeidah said it had recorded the death and injury of 13 civilians, including children in 6 landmine-related incidents during the month of April. This report has more details.
UNMAHA recorded 6 landmines cases in April, resulting in 13 civilian injuries. This represents a 13% decline from April 2022 and a 24% decrease from March 2023. In Ramadan, 22 people were killed as a result of 10 incidents, compared to 15 people killed in 9 incidents to the previous Ramadan. Yemen has been suffering from the landmines planted by the Houthis over the past years. This is happening as a result of repeated political and military conflicts that have provoked instability. As the war between the Houthis and the Yemeni government becomes more violent, mine laying increases intensely. In Yemen, landmines are laid randomly, which makes the process of removing them extremely difficult. According to the Civilian Impact Monitoring Project, humanitarian data source, landmines planted in farmlands, villages, wells, and roads have killed at least 140 civilians, including 19 children in Hodeidah and Taiz since 2018. The mines in Yemen pose a serious danger on the lives of the Yemeni people, despite the efforts made to remove them. Houthis have continued to plant the explosives in spite of the nationwide truce that ended on October 2022. According to Yemeni demining experts, over 1 million landmines have been laid since the civil war began in late 2014, when the Houthi militia took control of the capital Sana'a. Houthi mines continue to threaten the present and future of Yemenis, at a time when the world turns a blind eye to this forgotten terrorism perpetrated by the Iranian-backed Houthi militia. Children continue to be the major victims of mines laid randomly in Yemeni residential areas by the Houthi terrorist militia, supported by Iran. According to a recent Save the Children research, 1 child is injured or killed by landmine every 2 days. From 2018 and 2022, the number of casualties increased 8-fold. Millions of Yemenis live in armed conflict. Every step or move can endanger their lives. Peace does not guarantee safety, especially when roads and fields are mined. Yemen's situation is extremely dreadful. The conflict parties must prioritize the safety of people and ensure that they are no longer at risk from landmines or other explosive devices.
Coming next. Yemeni high school students start final exams amid repeated power cuts. Welcome back. In Hodeidah secondary school, students started doing the final exams amid hot weather and repeated power cuts. The Fang Report has more details.
278 male and female students in Hais district south of Hodeidah are taking their exams in an atmosphere of calm and optimism. Who strives finds, hoping that they will reap the fruits of their academic efforts and perseverance. Male and female students take these exams at the high school level, and each diligent person finds good results.
The examination process is done smoothly in Hais district and way better than previous years, thanks to the government and the security efforts. As for preparing the students, we follow up with them from the beginning of the year till the end.
Nothing disturbs the focus of the examinees in these halls other than the heat of the weather, which directly affects their concentration and has a greater impact on the female students due to the nature of the veil and the traditional dress. The manifestations of dissatisfaction with the outages are clear, and they are getting worse with the continued negligence of the concerned authorities to provide the necessary means of ventilation and cooling for the exam period.
Thank God we are going through our exams amid calmness, and the room is so quiet and lacks side talks. However, we are suffering the heat of summer due to the lack of fans. We hope that authorities will care more about the electricity.
The situation of the students in Hais is not completely different from other students in Tehama areas who are deprived of electricity service. But despite that, they take the exams with clear patience because their big dreams are more powerful than all the challenges.
Also in Adara secondary school, students began doing final exams despite the hard living conditions caused by the 9-year conflict. The Fang Report gives more details.
Najwa is one of many students who applied for high school certificate in the examination center of the 26th of September school, Salim area northwest of Al-Dala. Despite the conditions that plague the region, such as its proximity to active front lines, Najwa is adamant on taking her exams alongside her peers, so that she may pursue higher education. In addition to the wartime conditions, Najwa and her colleagues claim that they have experienced other obstacles during the school year, such as a lack of textbooks and a shortage of staff.
Despite the war and suffering and the absence of school textbooks, my schoolmates and I head to the examination center to fulfill our academic obligation.
We have endured many hardships over the course of our education, but today we attend the examination hall to test our knowledge.
More than 10,000 students attended 95 exam centers throughout Al-Dala Governorate's liberated directorates, as well as territories controlled by the Houthi militia in Al-Dala. A number of representatives from the local government and the Governorate's education office visited these centers to monitor the testing procedure.
We have overseen the progress of exams, despite the dire circumstances the Governorate faces, among which are service shortages, students, staff. Local authorities have all done their part to ensure a smooth examination process. 95 test centers were operating, hosting over 11,000 students.
Schools in Yemen have not been spared during the protracted conflict. Over the last 8 years, at least 1 out of every 4 educational facilities has been destroyed, damaged, or used for non-educational purposes. The war that has tormented Yemen for over 2 years is putting 4.5 Yemeni children and youth at risk of being completely deprived of an education. In addition to the deteriorating security, the destitute economic situation is currently putting enormous stress on the country's already weak educational system.
Yemen Airways said 360 Yemenis stranded in Sudan arrived at the airport of Aden and Sana'a respectively. The company added the evacuees were transferred from Port Sudan to Aden and Sana'a airports with 180 people per flight. Additional flights are scheduled to take off to transport the remaining Yemenis stranded in Port Sana'a. A UN report revealed that nearly 15,000 people in 12 Yemeni governorates were affected by climate change. The report stated that the floods damaged many homes and shelters, and that the majority of those affected reside in hard-to-reach areas. A new shipment of wheat funded by Saudi Arabia has arrived in Aden. The World Food Programme said that 24,000 tons of wheat arrived at the port of Aden, intended for the humanitarian response in Yemen. Noteworthy, King Salman Relief Center had signed last December an agreement with the World Food Programme, line which the basic food needs of about 5,000 people in Yemen would be provided for them. A fire broke out on a boat in the sea of the city of Mukalla and caused a thick cloud of smoke billowing into the city's sky. Emergency teams rushed to put out the fire quickly and succeeded in controlling it without recording any human injuries. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. A violent explosion rocks one house in the capital Sana'a amid reports of civilian casualties. The British ambassador to Yemen affirms his government's support to achieve peace in Yemen. The UN mission to support Hudaydah agreement says landmines have killed 13 people during April. This is the end of the news. It was Roshan Fuay. Thank you for watching.